So parents, by the way, at their children are their children's first teachers, and most parents of older children reflect on those happy golden moments reading to your kid when they were young.
It's my favorite time, but beyond just bonding, reading to young kids can have positive effects on your child's development. You've heard this before.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Don Shifrin is back with us this morning to talk about and reinforce why this is so crucial to a child's development. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
So we've all heard as parents, you got to start reading right when they're newborns. And I remember as a new mom, I'm thinking, it's a baby. She's not going to understand what I'm saying, or, she's not going to be able to respond. But really, at that early age, it's when you should start, right?
Absolutely. Babies are wired to learn. So when they are growing, it's not just their brain is growing, it triples in the first year. So what we want to do is we want to establish that great parent-child connection of trust and security, but also parents are the first resource for their youngsters, the literary resource and the reading resource. So obviously when you talk about language, whether it's singing, rhyming, or reading, right from the very start. Now certainly babies at 4 to 6 months can grasp books, and they can chew books, but they can also follow the words, and we have great research translating the research into that parent-child connection to reinforce language, and the neural pathways that it reinforces really increases their chances of being much more ready for kindergarten if you start reading early and often.
Does it depend what kind of book you read, or with a style, pop-up and things like that? What do you recommend?
Well, pop-up books probably wouldn't be appropriate for kids, like I would say at 4 to 6 months.
These are good books.
But it really doesn't depend on what you read. It depends on how much you read, because we know that in families that don't read and talk to their babies as often, by the time they're 4, compared to families that do, there's a 30 million word deficit. And statistically in the United States, 1 out of 3 kids are really lacking the skills that are language necessary to read at kindergarten age.
Yeah, Rich, I wanted to bring Rich in here too. You're such an avid reader to Nicholas and everything.
Yeah, well, I've raised 3 kids now. They have about a quarter century between them. So I've seen the results of it in my older kids. They're still avid readers, very successful. And but as you say, from the time they came home from the hospital, even before, reading to them. Now my 6-year-old cries if I'm too tired and fall asleep.
But in the days of technology with e-readers and things like that, you wonder, is that the same thing as picking up a book? And you say, no, the actual book is more beneficial. Tell me why.
Well, it's an interesting question. The Bezos lab over at the University of Washington is a state-of-the-art lab that actually tests babies and does functional brain scans on 8 to 10-month-olds, learning from a screen or learning from an actual live person teaching them. And the live person certainly has more advantage than the screen. So the other thing is that when kids see us on these screens, what happens is that connection that you have, that parent-child connection, is interrupted by that third party. And it's not as effective as teaching with an actual book. The other thing, of course, is role modeling. If kids see us reading, they're more likely to include reading in their repertoire. So being a good role model is also important, as well as reading to your youngster.
Yeah, no doubt. You said it.
So early and often, reading, rhyming, and routine. That's the key. And it's the best investment, other than great food and good sleep and activity, that you can make in your child's future.
Those 3 R's, keep those in mind.
And it's a great bonding thing, because it's something you can physically do with the child, sit close together and be able to read to them and share something.
And kids always remember those wonderful books, and we do too.
Dr. Don,
I have 2 older kids too.
Thank you so much for joining us. Read to your kids. We'll be right back.